Arthur, I muted you because you were making a lot of noise. Okay. All right, John, I'm recording too.
Okay. And good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. And welcome to the first regularly scheduled meeting of the Montclair Planning Board for 2021. In accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building and by sending a copy to the newspaper designated by the township for those notices. Electronic notice of this meeting has also been provided by posting a copy, excuse me, of the meeting notice along with access instructions on the township website and on the main door of the municipal building. This meeting is broadcast live on Channel 34 and is streaming live and will be available on demand on YouTube. This meeting is a quasi-judicial proceeding, meaning that the board has powers and procedures resembling a court of law and that we are obligated to objectively determine facts and draw conclusions from them in order to provide the basis for official action. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues of what the board can legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Members of the public in our electronic format this evening are automatically placed on mute until such time that the meeting is open for public questions or comments. At that time, the public will be unmuted and they may provide verbal questions or comments as appropriate. Members of the public may also direct questions or comments to Ms. Talley, the board secretary, via chat or question answer function on the meeting platform, or by emailing to jtalley@montclairnjusa.org. Of course, these are all alternatives to presenting an oral question, and that is if our technology is not supporting us in that realm for some reason this evening. As to what we're going to be doing this evening, we do have some applications on the agenda, and generally speaking, when we hear applications, they begin with the applicant or their attorney presenting an overview of the application and the variances required, if any. We will hear from expert witnesses, and the applicant will have the opportunity to explain the application and why variances may be required. Board members may ask questions of the applicant and their attorney and their expert witness. If you're a member of the public and you're interested in this matter and wish to ask questions, you will be allowed to do such at an appropriate time. Normally, this is at the end of each witness's testimony, and normally at the end of the entire presentation, we will again allow the public to comment on the application as a whole before the board proceeds to discuss the matter to make a decision. So with that said, again, welcome. Our first thing on our agenda this evening is our roll call, and I am here.
Okay. Vice Chair Brodock.
I'm here.
Mayor Spiller.
Present.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Councilor Schlager.
Here.
Miss Willis. Mr. Rooney.
Here.
Mr. Ian Wally.
Here.
Ms. Lockman.
Here.
And Mr. Gilmer.
Here.
Okay. The first item on our agenda tonight is reorganization. Being the first meeting of the year, we do need to reorganize. I sent a reminder to the nominating committee about the need to identify names or nominate names for the position of chair, vice chair, secretary, and assistant secretary. Does somebody from the nominating committee have a recommendation?
This is Robin. I have no new recommendations.
So your recommendation is to nominate John Wynn for chair, Keith Brodock for vice chair, myself as the secretary, and Graham Petto as the assistant secretary?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that Daniel?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? And then any abstentions? Okay. The next item on our agenda, we have, and congratulations on everybody on their continued appointments.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda, we have two sets of minutes, and I've received comments on those minutes from both Carmel and from Keith.
Janice, you didn't do subcommittee appointments.
Oh, you're right.
There we go.
I skipped right over that. Thank you. Okay, we have some empty spots on our subcommittees since Tim Barr has stepped down from the board. And you know what? Anybody who wants to change their subcommittee appointments, this is the time to talk about it. Does anybody have any suggestions? We have a position open for the Bylaws Committee and the Communications Committee.
Well, since we have Mr. Cook and Mr. Gilmer on for on this meeting tonight, perhaps we could figure out if one or both of them want to be part of the communications committee subcommittee, and perhaps that might work itself out as to who the membership is there.
Sure.
That's a good
Okay.
point. Yeah, it's a good point. I was looking at that piece as well, and I'd seen it before, realizing it needed to be resolved at some point. So I'm currently on 3 others, which I think is probably fine. Revisions, redevelopment, and master plan. So I'm glad to just stay on those 3. At the same time, yeah, still good if we can resolve the communications piece and take myself off of that and then figure out the
Okay.
1 or 2 other positions. And,
Okay.
I have
and
no,
Janice, just so we know, do we need 3 on the bylaws and 3 on the communications as well? I know
No,
some
we-
only require 2, yeah.
We can have just, those committees don't meet very frequently, so I think we will be fine with 2.
Okay.
I have no issue staying on the communications committee. That's all right.
Okay, good. So if there aren't any other changes, I'll change it so that we have 2 on the communications committee and 2 members on the bylaws committee. I think it works well to have 3 members on all the other committees because they do, meet fairly frequently. Can I have and if there aren't any other changes, can I have a motion to approve these subcommittee appointments?
I will
So
move.
moved by
So
Daniel
moved.
here. Or
Second.
seconded. Yeah, second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Thank you. So now we have the minutes from December 7th. And I did get comments and revisions from Carmel and from, I think it was, no, this might have just been from Keith on this one. So Keith, I will make it a point to add the additional language to the minutes about the call to order. I see you did it on both sets of minutes, so I'll make that change permanent. Are there any other changes
Yes,
to the
they are-
minutes?
at least when we're still doing these virtual meetings. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other changes to the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the December 7th minutes?
So move.
So moved.
Second? Keith?
Second?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. And we have the minutes from the meeting of December 14th. And I have changes from both Keith and from Carmel. I appreciate you making those corrections. Are there any additional changes? Are there a motion to approve the December 14th minutes?
So moved.
Just a little typo on top of page 2. It says turf laws, but turf lawns.
Turf, oh, lawns, I forgot the N. Okay.
Turf laws are tough, we know that.
Which paragraph is that?
I think it's the top, the second line.
Oh, there okay, I see it, okay. All right, so who made the motion to approve?
I did.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay. And that brings us to our resolution for 65 Church Street Urban Renewal, LLC. And again, we had changes to that resolution from, I believe, Mr. Brodock and Ms. Lockman. Are there any other changes?
I just need to point out that I think either Mr. Brodock or Ms. Lockman put in footnote 7, there is the line just below the bottom. It says, quote, exact undue dash hardship because of peculiar conditions. It looks to me like somebody inserted a hyphen in there, but the statute has no hyphen. So I just wanted to that out.
Mr. Neese, actually, that's a deletion of an extra space. It just shows up as a red line through the space. So we're on the same page.
Gotcha. All right. That's terrific, Keith. Thank you. But I must say, I wanted to just thank you guys for reading it so very carefully. It was really thank you.
Right. Okay, so is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
It's Tony, me, I can't vote on that.
Okay,
And I abstain.
okay. Okay, good, got it. Now we have the two more resolutions. The first one that I believe you got in your packet, is to adopt the amendment to the unified land use and circulation element of the master plan. My intent is, I haven't posted the new plan on the website yet. What I'll do is I'll insert this resolution, and I have the resolution from the previous amendment, and I will insert all those resolutions in the plan so we properly track when and how the plan's been amended. So are there any changes or recommended changes to the resolution?
I have just some, minor typo things.
Okay.
Okay, on page 1, the last whereas, I think it needs a colon after that also includes.
Okay.
And then on page 2, in the middle of the page, the indented paragraph that starts, the township should develop comprehensive.
Mm-hmm.
On the second line, it should be and connect. There's no S there.
Okay.
And that's all I caught. Did Keith catch anything?
I think there was one extra space in there somewhere, but I decided not to circulate that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
So moved. Yep.
Second?
Seconded.
Okay, that was Daniel. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Well, I just
Okay.
need Arthur to, I voted no on this. Do I vote no?
Right, yeah, me too.
Do I vote no to not adopt the resolution? It seems consistent rather than abstaining. Is that right?
Whatever is thought to be correct.
Arthur, I just unmuted you.
Yeah, and I unmuted myself. Tony, in your view, the proposed amendment was inconsistent with the master plan, correct?
Well, what's one of the reasons? Yeah, but
But that's why
well, no, I don't think that's true. I didn't argue that it was inconsistent with the master plan. I thought it was an inappropriate. Yeah, I voted no. For whatever reason, I voted no. It seemed logical that I would not adopt a resolution to do the very. Yeah, so I vote no.
Okay, that's correct.
Okay.
And Robin, you're of the same mind, I expect.
No, I'm incorrect. I'm sorry, I was reading something. I thought we were still talking about 65 Church Street. So I'm good with the subcommittee. I vote yes. With the I'm sorry, the master plan amendments.
I'm glad you're with this program now.
I know. I'm reading 3 things. Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Arthur, it's my understanding that if you didn't approve it, then you just abstained from voting on the resolution.
Was that a question to me?
Yeah, that was my understanding. If you voted no, if you did not vote on a resolution or on an application,
In favor of an application.
or in favor of it, then you just abstain from the vote on memorializing the resolution.
And that I think is what Tony has done.
Okay, so Tony, yeah, you're an abstention. Okay. And then finally, we have the resolution adopting the amended stormwater management element of the master plan. Are there changes to that resolution? If not, can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
I have a couple of questions, though, that were prompted by reading this resolution. Okay, and it's just to enhance my understanding. Okay, in the footnote, it says the governing body shall at least every 10 years provide for a general reexamination of its master plan. So the last reexamination was done in 2016. And I think a lot has changed in town since then. Is there any thought to doing another reexamination since it'll be 5 years?
That's something that would be a whole separate discussion that we can have. That's something that we want to do this year. That might be something that the planning board can work on.
I'm suggesting it this year because it seems to me that we haven't had the number of applications that we've had in the past, and it might be a good year to think about doing that. That's just a suggestion. And here's really a question. So continuing on there, once again, it says the governing body shall at least every 10 years provide for a general reexamination of its master plan and development regulations. What exactly are we talking about when we're talking about development regulations?
Those are your zoning regulations, your site plan and land use requirements, all of which are adopted and in your code.
So have we looked at them? I don't recall looking at them any
Oh,
recently.
Carmel, we've done them we reviewed them probably 2 years ago. And we tried to do a complete rewrite of them and didn't move ahead with it. So yeah, we've been working on them a little bit every year,
But
just not in the,
nothing has been finalized on those.
there've been some individual amendments, but not a comprehensive change, no.
All right. Thank you.
I think I'd like to see if we can push that forward. I don't know what the holdup was other than the township council at the time wanting kind of smaller bite-sized pieces rather than one comprehensive package. But, you know, I have no issue with doing the re-examination this year, as Ms. Lockman suggests, but I would like us to really try and finalize and finish the changes to the ordinances based on our last re-examination report.
Right.
And isn't that something we talked about discussing in conjunction with looking at the zoning board's annual report, where they had suggested doing a review of ordinances as well?
Yes, and I put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay, so thank you.
I believe that brings us to our first our applications, our new business for this evening. John, I did receive a request from the applicant for 21 Vera Place, which is a fairly simple lot line adjustment to be placed before the more lengthy application, which would be for 70 Park Street.
And who do we have representing on the Park Street matter?
Both of them is Alan Trembulac.
Both are Alan?
Yeah.
Set? Well then, as long as one of his clients doesn't have an objection with the other client going before him, you know, there's no reason why we would have an objection.
Alan, I made you a panelist so that you can speak.
How do I unmute? Oh, here we go.
Now you go. I just done. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
Can't see you. Oh, there you are.
there I am. I don't look much different since last year, maybe a few pounds heavier.
Maybe
Yeah,
you should take your video also. Maybe that'll be a better way to go.
I was hoping the video did not come on.
Stand up, please. Do you have pants on or shorts?
I'm not telling. I have a tie on though.
He does have a tie on, so you get points for that.
Good answer, Alan.
I think the lot line adjustment is very simple, and I think there are several interested parties on the line with that, and I think we could dispose of that very quickly, and would make sense, I believe, to do that first, if that's okay with the board.
That's fine.
Okay.
Then, go ahead.
Alan, who is associated with that application? Who's an attendee?
Well, there should be several people: R.Schmitt and Tersigni, and Luke Parker Bowles and Daniela Parker Bowles. I don't know if they're all present, but they would be the interested parties.
Okay. I have Daniela Parker Bowles just added and R.Schmitt. They're both,
Okay.
I made them both panelists.
Good evening, this is R.Schmitt. Thank you for having us here today. Alan's representing us and happy to answer any questions you may have.
No. May I proceed, Mr. Chair?
Please.
Okay. First of all, good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. It's good to see you all. I look forward to one day seeing you live and in person again, perhaps this year. All right, so this, I represent R.Schmitt and Tersigni in connection with this application for a lot line adjustment. My clients are the owners of 21 Vera Place in the R1 residential zoning district. and we're seeking a lot line adjustment. Most of the lots on Vera Place are either 60 or 70 feet in width. This property happens to be the largest lot on the block, essentially a double lot with 120 feet of lot width. Rather than subdivide the property, because I think this would have a reasonable chance of being successful if they were to subdivide the property and create two 60-foot lots, although it would require a minor lot width variance. What my clients would prefer to do is what's presented in this application. They've decided to sell 30 feet of their property to their friends and next door neighbors, Luke and Daniela Parker Bowles. By doing that, their lot would be reduced from 120 feet in width to 90 feet, still well in excess of the 70-foot lot width requirement. And also the Parker Bowles lot, which is a corner lot on the corner of Midland and Vera, their lot currently has a non-conforming 60-foot lot width on the Vera Place side. That would be enlarged and become a 90-foot lot width on Vera Place, similar to the new lot width on for my client's property. So, and that obviously the benefit there is it allows for the corner lot, the Parker Bowles property, to have a more functional rear yard for their children to roam around and play in, on the Vera Place side. So as Janice's planning memo pointed out, there are no variances relating to this application. And in fact, as I just noted, and as Janice noted, this application actually eliminates a non-conforming lot width for the Parker Bowles property. And again, creates a functional rear yard for their lot. So this is very simple, straightforward lot line adjustment. I think it's a win-win for everyone. It's a win-win for my clients. It's clearly a win-win for the Parker Bowles. And it's a win-win for the community, and particularly the neighborhood on Vera Place by, again, eliminating a nonconformity, adjusting the lot line, which would produce 90-foot lot widths, still well in excess of the minimum requirement and in excess of most of the lot widths on Vera Place, if not all of them. The one thing I would note, Janice pointed out, because of the tightness, if you will, of the corner property, the Parker Bowles have a play structure which is located in what's their side yard, but functionally it's the front yard of the property on Vera Place, which is technically not permitted. That would be, removed and relocated to their new rear yard, assuming the board approves this application. So my clients are present. There's really not much more to say. The plan speaks for itself, and the benefits obviously speak for themselves. And as I've already noted, there are no variances. We still have two fully conforming lots, but more functional, particularly for the corner property. So if the board has any questions, if you'd like to hear from Mr. Schmitt, I'd be happy to call him, but not much more he would really add.
If I could speak, I drove by there today, having seen the application, and it makes total sense. I thought this proposed application, it's a very nice thing to do, and it would look really nice and make really no difference though, actually. But there is very nice white fencing along there, and it's very well kept. It's really nice, and I think it's a really good thing to do.
Thank you, Robin.
Sure.
Any other members of the board have any questions that they want to ask?
I'd just like to thank the applicants for bringing this to us. It's a bit of a departure from what we often see, so just want to note that on the record. Yeah, I think it's really great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the public that wish to question the applicant about what is being presented to the board tonight? Applicant hasn't really testified to anything, but I agree with the applicant's attorney that this is a pretty straightforward application, and unless there's a specific question posed, I couldn't imagine the need for any testimony from the applicant.
Okay, I unmuted the members of the public who are here. So if you want to speak, this is your opportunity to speak. You're unmuted. I don't hear any questions.
All right. And does any member of the public wish to comment on this application? Again, it appears very straightforward. And I would just, for the purposes of this matter, I would just go on the record and say I agree with everything that Robin said. And I'm also in agreement, with Daniel that this is a pleasant change and from what we normally have to deal with. And, I think it's a no-brainer. But does anybody want to comment on this? Now is the time.
Okay, I don't hear any comments, John.
All right, I guess I just hear background noise. All right, well, with that, I'd like to cut right to the chase and to propose that we adopt, the application, approve the application as presented. We have our standard conditions that we would put on this type of process here, but I don't see any reason or can think of anything else that we need to add to this. So that's my motion.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay. Do you want me to read the roll call, Arthur, or can I just do it?
I think for this kind of application, it would be fine just to take an acclamation vote.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Can I just say, John, Robin, all of you guys, I realize right now there are much more important things you need to be tending to. And I genuinely appreciate you taking the time to do this. So thank you. You guys, sorry, you kick ass. So.
Thank you. This is what we're here to do, to hear these things, but thank you. We appreciate it. We don't hear that enough.
I realize you can't minute kick ass, so just put some stars and some ampersands in there instead.
Okay.
Somebody leave his microphone open for more comments. I like these. Keep them going.
For the record, that was Luke Parker Bowles, who I knew would somehow inject himself into the proceedings. So.
I'm actually surprised. His name on his Zoom was Daniela, so I wasn't sure.
You know who the more important member of the family is. Okay.
All right, Mr. Trinilek, you also have the next one then.
Alan, who should I bring in for this next application? I already brought
Well,
Paul Sionis.
I think Mr. Plofker is out there somewhere, and Kevin Costello, and There may be a gentleman, a third-party witness named Jonathan Tamir.
There's no witnesses.
Janice, may I just ask a question while you're waiting? I think that we forgot to do the conflict attorney as part of our reorganization.
That's new. I put that under new business at the end after we did the applications.
Okay.
Kevin, I was not able to make you a panelist, but I unmuted you. We
All
have
right,
the same
understood. For whatever
okay.
reason, yeah, I always have the problem on this computer, so.
I don't
as
know if
long
there's
as-
anybody else that, Kristen Krongard, is she involved with your application? Or Casey, is Casey going to be testifying?
No, I think she's just here to listen.
Right.
And then Mr. Tamir, I don't know if you got him here. He's a,
I don't see him.
let me see. He might be joining us in a moment. We can start without him. But if you see a phone number, his last 4 digits are 5877. You see that?
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Good evening again. Alan Tremulak, appearing on behalf of the applicant, Montclair Medical Property Partners, LLC. And I should note, as Mr. Anise correctly pointed out, there was a clerical error in the application, which referred to the property owner as Montclair Medical Property Associates, LLC. The correct name of the LLC is, as I said, Montclair Medical Property Partners, LLC. And the application should be so amended to correct that clerical mistake. One thing's clear, the property that we're dealing with on this application is 70 Park Street. It's located in the OR-3 garden apartment and office building zone. Property contains a 3-story office building that I believe was built in the 1950s. The property was recently purchased, when I say recently, in 2018. Mr. Plofker, through an affiliate, the LLC that I just mentioned, acquired the property. And since then, in a relatively short period of time, as he does with most of the properties, if not all of them, actually, that he acquires and rehabilitates in Montclair, he's made significant improvements and enhancements to this property, primarily visual and aesthetic improvements to the exterior of the building, which looks much different than it did several years ago. We're before the board this evening on a minor site plan application, which really relates to simply 2 aspects of the property we're seeking approval for. First improvement would be to install a connection or a driveway connector in front of the office building, which would connect the 2 driveways located on the northerly and southerly side of the building, and the purpose of which would be to provide better access into the ADA entrance in the front of the building for people arriving in vehicles or ambulance and the like. I should say that most of the uses in this building are medical uses, and we'll provide testimony in support of that. The second component of the application involves the new freestanding sign, which has already been installed in the front of the building to replace the sign that had previously been there. Both of those improvements, the driveway connector and the sign, require variances. The connector piece requires a variance for exceeding the permitted impervious coverage on the property. The ordinance allows 70%. The existing condition is 85%, and this would bring the impervious to 89%. And then the sign exceeds the height requirements as well as the sign area requirements, and those will be explained in more detail by Mr. Sionis, who will be my first witness and will describe the plan and provide the planning testimony in support of the variances. The second witness, hopefully, will be Jonathan Tamir, who's a representative of one of the tenants in the building. And my third and final witness will be Kevin Costello, who will discuss the sign variance. Mr. Plopper is also in attendance, and I'm sure we'll have some testimony and input from him throughout the hearing. So unless the board has any preliminary questions for me, I would begin by calling Paul Sionis as my first witness.
Mr. Sionis, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Thank you. Would you raise your right hand, please? Not sure I can actually see you, but I trust that you're raising your right hand. Sir, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Would you please state your full name and business affiliation for the record?
My name is Paul Sionis. My last name is spelled S-I-O-N-A-S. I am the president of Sionis Architecture, located at 8 Hillside Avenue, Montclair, New Jersey.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to be offering Mr. Sionis as an expert architect as well as an expert in professional planning, and I know he's testified before the board on numerous occasions in the past, so I would hope the board would accept his qualifications in both of those fields.
How do you spell his name again?
I forget.
Still is that. I think he's still in good standing. I hope so, Paul.
No, we will accept it.
Thank you. Paul, you prepared the site plan submitted to the board in connection with this application? And have you also prepared a PowerPoint presentation to assist with your testimony this evening?
Yes, I did.
And a copy of that was submitted to the board earlier today, late this afternoon, I believe. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right.
Okay, Alan, I'd like to mark this for the PowerPoint, or actually the exhibit into the record.
Do you have an actual evidentiary record of this application, Janice? You want to just go through it?
Sure. A1 is the application. A2 is the certification of taxes paid. A3 is the certification of publication. 4 is the affidavit of service. A5 is a 2-page set of architectural drawings prepared by Sionis Architecture, dated December 5th, 2019. A6 is a photo of the sign that was submitted by the applicant. A7 is the planning report dated December 22nd, 2020. A8 is the engineering report dated December 23rd, 2020. And this presentation will be A9.
Paul, would you review the site plan with the assistance of your PowerPoint, please?
Sure. The PowerPoint is a compilation of approximately 9 pages, and they include the drawings that were submitted with the application. They've been enhanced with color for better visibility, and we've added some photographs, as I will explain. Slide number 1, which is on the screen now, this is the survey map that was prepared by Lakeland Surveying, dated April 6, 2018. And as was noted, 70 Park Street is known as Lot 5 in Block 2307, and it's in the OR3 zone. The property is about 99 feet wide, 231 feet deep, or 22,229 square feet, or 0.51 acres. It's located on the west side of Park Street. The lot has a slight slope from west to east, so from the rear to the front. And the lot is improved with asphalt paving that's marked for 26 parking spaces, plus the existing 3-story masonry office building. Currently, there's one-way traffic circulation in a clockwise orientation around the property. So vehicles enter the property on the southerly driveway, the driveway that's on the left side of the property, and drive around the property in a clockwise direction, and then exit out the northerly driveway back onto Park Street. Currently, there are 4 angled parking spaces in the south side of the front yard. So between the line of the front of the building and the front property line, there's about 4 parking spaces that are within the front yard. Next slide, please, Janice. Slide number 2, this is an image taken from Google Maps Street View. The image was dated August 2019. So this is the existing front view of the property, or the east elevation. The building's located almost directly in the center of the property. It's a 3-story building with a brick exterior. According to the township records, the building was built in 1955. The building currently contains about 12,716 square feet of office space. It's primarily medical offices. There's still, I believe, 2 law firms in the building. There are approximately 14 office suites in the building, and there are 2 main entries into the building. Both face Park Street. There's an entry on the left side of the building with a series of steps up to that entry, and then there's an ADA, or barrier-free or handicapped entry, just behind the sign, directly under the large number 70 on the facade of the building. So that's an ADA entry, and that's the entry that's closest to Park Street. Since the applicants purchased this property in 2018, the building's undergone many aesthetic and functional improvements, both on the interior and the exterior. The office suites have been updated and improved, and if you've driven by or look at this photograph, you'll see the exterior is a lot nicer than it ever was in the last 65 years. Next slide, please. Slide number 3. The surrounding area. This is a Bing satellite bird's eye view. On the Bing satellite photo, this was labeled as taken in 2017. So 70 Park Street, which I've outlined in orange, it's one of 5 properties, or 5 lots on the west side of the street, between Claremont Avenue to the south and Walnut Street to the north. Directly next to this property, to the it says to the east, but directly to the north is Moriarty Funeral Home. Directly to the south is a 2.5-story brick building that was constructed around directly to the early 1980s. It was originally 2.5-story brick. Cal Trevenin and John Garippa had constructed the building. They had their law firm in there for many years. On the other side of Park Street, there are several office uses, including the former Red Cross building, which is now vacant. There's the former branch bank at the northeast corner of Park Street in Claremont, and that's now vacant. And then there's Temple Chambre Muna, which is directly across from the subject property, directly across from this property on Park Street. So there's the temple with a large parking lot, and also the childcare use within that building. The lot, as I said, it's located almost halfway between Claremont Avenue to the south and Walnut Street to the north. And then, according to the street signs, on-street parking is allowed on the west side of the street, and it states that 2-hour parking is allowed from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Mondays through Fridays. Next slide, please. So slide number 4. This is labeled proposed improvements. So this application is for 2 variance requests. And the first one, which I've labeled as number 1, proposal is to install a new 21-foot 6-inch wide connector driveway between the existing south driveway and the existing north driveway. So this driveway is proposed to be closest to the ADA entrance, that barrier-free entrance. I've labeled the AD entrance on the drawing. So the purpose of this driveway is to help get people into the ADA entrance, either from a van or for an ambulance or a passenger vehicle, without blocking the existing driveway as currently happens. So currently, a van or a vehicle or an ambulance will pull up to that front area of the building, block the driveway, and cars can't get around it. So the applicants are proposing to build this connector drive, and they've made it wider than a normal one-way driveway, which would be 12 feet, so that a car could pass by vehicles, either an ambulance or a van that stopped there, either assisting a patient getting into the vehicle or out of the vehicle. And the concern that came up in the planning department memo is if, and also in the engineer's memo, is if people will be parking here, and the applicants have agreed they will install a no parking sign, and additionally they'll mark the paving to note that parking is not allowed on this connector drive. That's the first part of the application, and that requires a variance because the property currently exceeds the allowable impervious surface area. Currently, the impervious surface area of the property is 85%. A maximum of 70% is allowed. With this proposed connector drive, the impervious surface area will be 89%. So we're increasing the impervious by 4% by paving this driveway. Second part of this application is that a new non-compliant freestanding sign was installed. So I've marked that as a number 2 on the site plan to show where that sign is. That sign has been installed. It doesn't comply with the zoning requirements, but the applicants are here seeking permission to keep this sign. And I'll describe the sign in a little bit. So next slide, please, slide number 5. Slide number 5 has two images. The top left image is a photo that was actually taken by the survey firm when they did their survey work in April of 2018. And that shows what the building looked like when the applicants purchased the property. Prior to the improvements, there was the exposed red brick. There was that stone or stucco treatment between the floor levels. And there were the old original 1955 windows. You could also see the freestanding directory type sign that was in the front yard in that 2018 photo. So the directory had 13 designations on the sign for 13 tenants who were there at the time. The sign was narrow and tall. The bottom left image is a photo that was taken by my office a few months ago, October of 2020. And this shows the currently improved building facade. It's been painted, every window's been replaced. Different treatments were applied to the facade to sort of make it, bring it into the modern era, not still look like 1955. And then this also shows a photograph of the sign that was installed by the applicants. And as I said, it's non-compliant. It is a directory sign similar to the sign that was there as far as being a directory. However, it's much larger. So this sign is 7 feet high, and the maximum allowable sign is 6 feet high. Also, the sign is 54 square feet of sign area, and a maximum of 12 square feet is allowed. So again, this was recently installed, and it doesn't comply. The applicants are here asking for a variance to be able to keep this sign. Next slide, please. Number 6. So the applicants are asking for two bulk variances. The first one is from Montclair Code 34763, and that's for impervious coverage. So as I stated, 70% maximum is allowed in this zone district. The existing is 85%, and the proposed is 89%. Second variance, the C variance that's requested is from Montclair Code 347-110.3.8. And that states, as I indicated in the previous slide, a freestanding sign shall have a maximum sign area of 12 square feet and a maximum height of 6 feet. The installed sign has an area of 54 square feet and a height of 7 feet. As was stated in the planning memo, this is about a little over 4 times the size that's allowed. And the C variances can be justified under the C2 grounds. And as far as the C2 grounds, the purposes of the municipal land use law would be advanced by a deviation from the ordinance requirements, and the benefits would outweigh any detriment to the public good. So I'll start with the impervious coverage. The proposed driveway connector will allow for an ambulatory drop-off adjacent to the ADA entrance to the building. This currently doesn't exist. Vehicles that deliver or pick up patients often block the entry drive on the south while assisting a patient in or out of the vehicle. Even if it's a few minutes, it still blocks cars going in and out of the driveway the way it currently exists. So the 21-foot 6-inch wide driveway allows for a pass-through or drive-by aisle. So another vehicle could drive past the vehicle that's assisting a patient. And as I stated, the applicants can designate this driveway with a no parking sign and also place markings on the paving, repeating that no parking is allowed here. As I looked at the site, there appear to be opportunities to remove paving at the rear corners of the property where parking is not possible. So we're currently losing 921 square feet of pervious area in front of the building, but we can actually gain back another 823 square feet in the rear corners, in the back left and back right corner where it's paved. Cars can't park there anyway, so that would result in a change in impervious area from the existing 85%. It would increase it by 1% up to 86%, but it would be less than that 89% that's originally proposed. So the site, in my opinion, has historically had the 85%, and you know, my recollection of living here for many years when this was the modeling school, the parking lot was always configured the way it is now. And then, as pointed out in the consulting engineer's memo, the existing site drainage is sheet flow to Park Street. So the additional paved area will not cause a detriment to the site. And the proposed drop-off lane will improve the vehicular circulation and help to alleviate some of the parking issues on the site as cars either block the drive or take up a parking space, even if it's just for a few minutes at a time. This should help with the vehicular circulation on the site. Next slide, please, number 7. Slide number 7, continuing with the bulk variances. So we have the second bulk variance is for the freestanding sign. And just to repeat this, a freestanding sign is allowed to be a maximum area of 12 square feet and a maximum height of 6 feet. And this sign is much larger. So the variance for this sign could be also justified on the C2 grounds. So as to the freestanding sign, the applicant's goal since purchasing the property has been to improve the aesthetics on this property, including the exterior facades of the building, the complete interior of the building, and even the building signage. The applicant feels that the design of the sign relates to the other improvements that they have already made to the building and to other properties that they've approved throughout the township. So this is not, typically with this applicant, it's not your standard sign, but it goes with what's been done. It goes along with what's been done to the building already. They have installed a freestanding sign that's much more attractive than the previous sign, as I showed from the old photograph, while also making this much more visible. So the sign is larger than allowed. However, with the larger sign, they're improving the site safety, that visitors to the property could more easily read the sign, determine if the office they're looking for is actually in this building, or do they have to go next door prior to entering the building and the driveways. So this is an appropriate and efficient use of land, in my opinion, and we're creating a much improved, desirable visual environment from prior to the applicant's purchase of this property. Historically, the front sign on this property had been a directory type sign, albeit smaller. Next slide, please, number 8. So we've received 2 memos, and slide number 8 outlines both of those memos. First memo was from the planning department, and that was dated December 22nd, 2020. And first item was that a building identification sign should be provided to identify the building as permitted by zoning. And as I've stated, the applicant has installed this non-compliant sign seeking better visibility and enhanced aesthetics. They're here seeking approval for what they've installed already, even though it does not comply. The applicant, in the second item, the applicant should explain the reason for the front yard driveway connector. I think I've explained that the applicant wishes to improve patient drop-off and pickup while improving vehicular site circulation. And then the third item in the planning memo is that the trash enclosure should be provided. Well, this building has trash storage inside the building. There's an existing separate exterior door on the south side of the building, and the applicant has been and will continue to be responsible for removal of trash from the building and the site. The site plan ordinance requires that there be a site storage on the property in the form of a solid fenced-in area with a concrete platform. However, this one building has a trash room accessible directly from the exterior. It's probably had this since 1955. The applicants would like to continue using this, and they will continue to take responsibility for removing the trash from the building and also from the site. The other memo that was received is the memo from Suburban Consulting Engineers, and that was dated December 23rd, 2020. First item was that they would defer to the planning department for the sign variance. Second, existing non-conforming impervious coverage will increase, and I've noted that. Third is that the applicant to provide a detailed table accounting for all impervious areas to support the table. I have that on the next slide, slide number 9. Item 4 is that testimony is to be provided to support the driveway interconnection. I did that. We'll hear more from, I believe, 2 more witnesses. Proposed driveway connection is to be dimensioned. That has been dimensioned now, and it shows on the site plan that I've presented tonight. It's 21 feet 6 inches wide and approximately 44 feet long. Provide testimony as to the intended circulation of the driveway connector. On the site plan that I presented this evening, I showed the arrow pointing the intended circulation of that connector is to be from south to north, so from left to right on the property. The fire official is to review this application. We don't know if that's been done yet. Existing site drainage is sheet flow to Park Street. I noted that in my testimony. That there is, the memo stated that there is a trench drain in the yard next to the front walk, and it's not shown. And the plan needs to be updated to include this. On the survey map we received, the trench drain was not shown. If the trench drain is where the connector drive is proposed, the trench drain will need to be relocated. And so the plan will be updated to include this modification. Last item was that the project size does not trigger stormwater management upgrades. So the applicant must ensure that stormwater runoff does not negatively affect the neighboring properties. So my opinion is that when this connector drive is constructed, the applicant must ensure that stormwater runoff will not be directed towards either of the neighboring properties to the south or to the north. Slide number 9, please. And this is a impervious area calculations as was stated in the engineer's memo. This states that the lot area is 22,229 square feet, and it shows the vegetative areas, or the areas that the water drains through currently. And it breaks it down, existing versus proposed, in the first column, first vertical column, and the second middle vertical column is proposed. And then the third column is a column we added today, and that's a proposed alternative stating that if we remove the paving in the back southwest corner and the northwest corner where it's paved, we'd pick up an extra 3% of pervious area that currently does not exist. We'd recommend that cars can't park there anyway. It's just paved no man's land. So this is the impervious curb area calculations, and that concludes my testimony.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. I think you covered everything very thoroughly. I don't have any further questions. I would just note for the board that I think, as Paul indicated in his testimony, that the applicant would agree to comply with conditions number 8 and 9 in the board engineer's memorandum as conditions of approval. So having said that, I have nothing further for Mr. Sionis.
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just a point of clarification. The numbers on the building, the 70 on the building, seem very large. Are they within the town ordinances?
I have not reviewed that. Janice, have you reviewed that?
You're muted, Janice.
Yeah, we don't have, the zoning ordinance does not have requirements for the size of a building identification number. That made it so technically there's no variance for the building number.
Okay, I just wanted to know, since we're talking about variances, if that's
right.
That's fine then. Okay.
So while we're talking about that, Mr. Sionis, why the number on the sign and the building, both of which seem kind of large?
Right, they were requested by the applicant and installed by the applicant prior to this application. The building number on the facade was installed, to my recollection, when they did the facade repairs. And then the number on the sign was installed with the sign.
Do we need both?
This is Kevin.
Different fonts.
Yeah, this is Kevin, the applicant. I mean, we could get rid of the 70 on the signage. We'd have no problem with that. I can see, in the photo, I've never noticed it myself, but now looking at this picture, 2 different fonts, definitely a little redundant. I don't see any reason why it needs to be on the sign.
I mean, I kind of like the sign on the building because it's very visual as you're driving by. But I agree, the sign on the numbers on the sign are not necessary.
Right. Alan, do you want to swear Kevin in?
Yeah, I just perhaps we should swear him in. He's going to testify eventually, and he already has. Mr. Kevin Costello.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to take my word for my hand up because my camera doesn't work with the WebEx for some reason.
We'll believe you.
But in any event, do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Would you please state your full name and business affiliation for the record, please?
Kevin Costello, Costello, and I'm the director of Montclair Medical Property Partners, LLC.
Okay.
Back to him later.
Back to Mr. Sionis. Can you review what you said about relocating the drain? I missed some of it. You kind of went through it a little quickly for me. I was looking at the drawings and I didn't quite catch everything that you said about it.
Okay, Janice, could you go back to slide number 1? Slide number 1 is the existing survey map that was prepared by Lakeland Surveying and provided to us to draw the site plan. In the suburban engineer's memo, they stated that there is an existing trench drain or yard drain just below where it states 15.7 as a dimension at the front of the building's footprint. So there's a yard, thank you, right below there in that yard, there's a trench drain to collect stormwater in that lawn area. So the engineer suggested that this will probably be where the proposed driveway connector will be installed, and that trench drain should be relocated once the driveway is installed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, relocated where?
Well, we will review with our civil engineer, Paul Anderson, but the choice will be either to have a drainage device in that new connector drive or to relocate it to the lawn area that will be between the connector drive and the front property line.
The reason why I'm asking too is that, since you're diminishing the impervious, rather the pervious area, and it's gonna, by logic, whatever would have been absorbed by what you're now going to pave over is going to run off in a different direction, if the relocation of that drain can somehow be positioned, accommodated to, to pick up that extra.
I agree. And that's what we will work with our civil engineer to determine the best location for that.
All right. And the paving for the driveway, is that going to be this connector? Is it going to be asphalt? Is it going to be pavers? Is it going to be something other than that?
It's shown as asphalt.
Asphalt.
Janice, could you pull up slide number 4, please? Right, so that new area is to be, it's shown as asphalt paving.
And it will be striped as indicated with the arrow sign, or?
Yes, there is to be, we haven't shown the no parking sign on there, but we're proposing that it has a directional arrow painted on the driveway, and also either striped to indicate no parking on the driveway, plus a no parking sign.
Only one sign?
Only one sign, yes.
I have a question. So I drove around the building today, and the exiting driveway is very narrow.
Yes.
As is the entering one as well. But will there be any kind of indication that there's a turnaround there, so that people, they'll know that there could be a car or an ambulance or something coming out of the cut through?
There should be. I think if we haven't discussed that, but there should be signage. Previously, before the improvements were made to the building, there was a sign on the facade on the top right side of the facade that said, "Do not enter." It was a small sign to prohibit cars from driving up that northerly driveway from Park Street. That sign is not there now, so I believe a sign like that is required. And then there needs to be a sign also about caution. Maybe it's a stop sign or just a caution sign for cars driving south along this northerly driveway before they get to that connector drive, in case it is an ambulance or a van, an ambulatory van.
Not a big fan of signs all over the place. Could you paint lines on the driveway or something to say, stop even?
Yes, that's a better idea, to have a stop bar painted on that exit driveway. That would work.
And another question, I guess there's about 4 spots that are, really, you're not allowed to have parking spots in the front of a building, correct? But are those grandfathered in or something?
So those were grandfathered in, and that's why I pointed that out, that there are 4 stalls that are probably, I remember seeing these back through the 1980s. These spaces were always there, but they're front yard parking, which would not be allowed currently.
Because clearly, if you didn't have those 4 spots, you wouldn't need a cut through. You could just drive straight back, and the driveway would be wide enough to accommodate, I guess, an ambulance
to pull over.
Letting
Correct.
something out. But because you have the spots, that eliminates that possibility, and you need a cut through.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, did you consider? I mean, the driveway that crosses in front of the building is really inconsistent with the entire streetscape. All these properties have lawns in the front.
Correct.
So it's a bit of an eyesore to have pavement in front of the building comparative to the other buildings. And I'm just wondering if is there another way to get a little bit more room by maybe potentially widening, having a semi-mountable sidewalk or something just temporarily. I mean, I don't really see the benefit in paving in front of the building on Park Street just for an occasional vehicle that needs to be parked there for a short period of time. That's number one. And number two, I have a suggestion. if you're successful in getting the paving, why not make the new paving porous paving? Have it be block and have it all be pervious surface. It's pretty easy to do that, and the engineer can probably give you some advice on that.
Right, I agree with that, Tony. That's a good suggestion. It would help with the permeability, and it would look better.
I have a question in that regard as well. Is there a way that you could do landscaping in front of the cut through? Not really big, but something that would divert your attention. And as Tony suggests, this is the only building that doesn't have a front yard if you put that cut through in there. But I think if you enhance the landscaping in front of the cut through, that would look nice.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that, Carmen.
Paul, I don't think you answered Tony's question about having a drop-off area instead of a whole cut-through. You could just have a pull-in area over by the ADA entrance rather than a whole cut-through.
Right. Can I ask Kevin, has that been discussed at all? Kevin Costello?
I mean, we kind of went over it a little bit. It's just everything is very tight on this site. As you can see, the entrance driveway is only about 10 feet wide. The exit driveway is even narrower than that. I don't see a way that you can pull over near that ADA entrance without blocking the entry, and definitely without blocking all those, diagonal spots that need to back out. I just don't think I have the room for it.
Well, essentially, you would need about 25 feet, a length of 25 feet by a width of 8 feet. I think you could provide that right where that's about the dimension of your connector driveway.
So are you saying you're proposing that they pull into the front there and then whatever's dropping them off would back out, like back into that driveway again?
No, it would be a drop-off area, but rather than making it a cut-through, it would be like a parallel parking space right in front of the ADA entrance. So when whoever is dropped off, then you can pull back into the driveway and continue to the back of the building instead of cutting across the front of it.
Well, I mean, the point, one of the reasons we wanted this driveway was to avoid having to have every single person go all the way in the back of this site, down this 10-foot driveway and around, and then down this 9-foot driveway just to do a drop off. If somebody was going to just, medical appointments, a lot of times you do have someone just dropping somebody off. The idea was that you wouldn't have to go all the way back into the site on this kind of tight driveway. So that's where the loop helps you, is because you can get in and out without ever navigating that, which you wouldn't be able to do with a parallel spot. You'd pull in. It still seems like it'd be tight, though Paul might be able to tell me. I guess Paul, what's a normal parallel spot in Montclair?
10 by 22.
So 22, we've got about 21 feet wide, that driveway. But you've got some grade change there. There's like 3 steps kind of right adjacent to the ADA entry. I don't know if you'd get a car that could pull in there and get back out.
Well, you absolutely can. You can get a car in. 22 feet by 10 feet is what we normally see.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some room for it. It's just every person still has to, it still has to go all the way through this entire site just to do a drop off. It seems like we could get them in and out quicker, and I don't know how much it even saves you on the impervious. I guess you're going to have, I don't know, maybe half that yard would still be paved.
No, it wouldn't be half.
I don't know, Paul. We didn't look at that as an option. It's a little awkward there, but
Kevin, as you just said, though, one of your goals was not to have cars driving around the perimeter, with this, the narrow driveways, and especially if it's an ambulance.
Well, how about, can't they, essentially, I'm just thinking, the entrance is not that far away from the street. Wouldn't it be possible to basically pull along the street and drop off the person from the street. They can walk up the sidewalk. It's not that far away to the entrance. It's about, what, 20 feet further, maybe 30 feet further?
Janice, I think we'll hear from one of our witnesses will be someone who represents the brain and spine office that's in the building. So those people a lot of the patients can't walk.
Yeah, which also, a lot of the reason that this driveway, we proposed it to be wider was so that you could have one car stop while you're letting somebody in. You might be accompanying your spouse, or, you might be a caregiver, whatever, and somebody else could come through and still use the loop driveway, which is not possible if it's just a parallel spot. That's only one person at a time. So if somebody else enters and is trying to do a drop off, it's not possible.
Okay.
So people are going to park in that area?
No, the idea is that it's a drop off zone, but that doesn't mean that that's going to be a rolling stop, and these people that are being dropped off are not, have ambulatory issues, and so it
honest,
may be
Kevin.
15 minutes.
Kevin, I just have to say, I've seen how you operate some of your other parking lots, and you striping it for no parking and putting up no parking signs has not precluded people from parking in those areas on your private parking lots on your other projects. So just want to point that out, that I don't think that would necessarily stop people from parking there. I
mean, the intent is not to make a front yard parking. It's a drop off.
I hear what you're saying, but from experience, I'm just pointing that out.
I think that largely becomes an enforcement issue, which is
but we've had this issue before. You approved a site plan with areas that are
saying. Yeah, Ms. Talley, I believe, is saying that you're not doing proper enforcement in the other properties, and so it's a concern for her in this area, in this property.
I don't think we have a front yard parking anywhere. I think Ms. Talley's referring to a property on North Willow Street where parallel spots are sometimes used for perpendicular parking with an attendant there.
Well, is the traffic that's anticipated around this driveway that much that if it were only, one generous lane for a vehicle to pull up, drop off someone, that the next person couldn't wait until the other person finished their drop off before, exiting?
I think that would be easier if the building was set back further and we had a little bit more room in that entry driveway. But as it stands, if there's one person already in a single wide loop driveway there, is immediately the next person is going to be blocked waiting to get into that. There's not like an area where you can queue up 2 or 3 cars for a drop off there.
Well, how many people do you get dropped off at the same time?
I mean, I don't know. We're 12 tenants in there. Most of these are all daytime appointments. I can foresee having multiple, we have an oncology center in there. We have a brain and spine center. There's a decent amount of people that I think would utilize this. Right now, if you're dropping someone off, you have to go all the way into the back of the site, and then there's not even like a sidewalk to get you back to that front entrance. So we have people in wheelchairs, we have people with walkers walking down these 9-foot wide kind of entry and exit driveways to get to the front door. It's just not a very safe situation.
Sure, but if somebody's dropping somebody off at the front door now, certainly, you haven't said about you've got people queued out into the street waiting to get into the driveway. And my question is that if you did a narrower driveway so that it's not basically a 2-car wide, but maybe 1.5 car, you get some more lawn in the front, you get less pervious coverage, and maybe it's a little slower for people that drop off if you have that many people coming in, but still there's room for people to pull into that driveway for 1 car. There's at least room for 1 or 2 cars to queue in the driveway waiting to get there, and if they're really in that much of a hurry, then I guess they'll have to drive around the building, or they'll just have to wait. I mean, it's just a drop off. It's not a parking space. So how long could the wait be?
Yeah, and I think our tenant, Mr. Tamir, can speak to that a little bit about, his typical patient and kind of how mobile they are and how long he anticipates a drop-off would take. The elevator is located in the center of this building. It's not immediately adjacent to the entrance. So even if you're just helping someone out and getting them all the way to the elevator, you're going to be there for a couple minutes. But I hear what you're saying, that if we had a single wide, I don't know. I guess the people waiting to get into there, you're saying, would go find a parking space and not do drop off. I'd rather have them, have the opportunity to slip by that other car. And maybe that is with impervious pavement or pavers or impervious asphalt, something that could be a little less, severe in that front yard in landscape might look a little different.
Kevin, is there, since the elevators are in the middle of the building, is there an opportunity to put an entrance in the back?
There's no hallway that accesses the back there.
Okay.
So
So people who park in the back, they have to walk all the way to the front to enter the building?
Yes. That was where, what drove this whole application was we had a New Jersey Brain and Spine. It was our most recent tenant that moved in there. And it was a real concern of theirs was that everybody's parking in the back and then you have a 10-foot wide entrance drive and they're going, there's no sidewalk or anything to get them to that front door. So they wanted to have some sort of solution that could get people kind of much more immediately adjacent to that ADA entrance. And this is what we came up with.
I mean, I'm thinking about inclement weather too. If you have people, in wheelchairs being wheeled up that narrow driveway in bad weather, that certainly is not accommodating people with disabilities or issues, whereas this cut-through would do that. Also, are there, do you get many panel trucks or deliveries that would go to the back and use that narrow driveway?
I don't know, Paul, did that photo you showed me today make it into the presentation?
It did not, but I had a photo of an Amazon delivery vehicle that was stopped in the driveway, blocking the driveway.
Right. I would think that happens fairly frequently. I mean, we have 14 different tenants. They're all getting deliveries. And so the Amazon truck either, stops in the driveway and then goes all the way around. So this.
Yeah, and beyond just Amazon, we have many of the tenants have the Lab Corp or whatever it's called, drop up and pick off boxes. So we get a lot of people picking up specimens there. And yeah, everybody just kind of stops in that entrance driveway, runs in as fast as they can, but then it's, it blocks the driveway the whole time they're inside.
So would one of those trucks, as you've just described, be able to slip past someone who was dropping off a patient or a client?
Yeah, that's the goal. We did, what is it, almost 22 feet wide there, Paul?
21.86, yeah. So that would allow the car to pull over, let someone out, plus another vehicle pass by.
Right.
That was the idea. We agree that, it's not the most attractive and maybe it could be improved with permeable pavers, landscaping. The narrowest you would want is 18 feet since that's a two-way driveway. We came up with the 21.6 to allow for somebody actually opening their car door and helping someone get into a wheelchair. But it could be, we could work to make this more attractive.
Paul, there's two things that I also brought up in my report. One, there's no lighting proposed for this area. And number two, does the sidewalk extend across this driveway, or does the sidewalk extending from the street sidewalk, is it covered with the asphalt?
The asphalt or whatever the paving will be part of the sidewalk. That's the second part of your question. Yes, the sidewalk will continue, but at the driveway, the paving will form that sidewalk. And then the other part
shouldn't the sidewalk continue across the pavement, to maintain the pedestrian flow? And there should be lighting so that.
Yeah, so yeah, I agree that the sidewalk could be defined to cross that paving. And then there is existing lighting on the facade of the building. There's a wall-mounted light fixture that that covers this front area pretty well right now. You can see that on slide number 2.
There's also recessed lighting over both entrances. There's like kind of like a little roof, you know, the second floor extends over the entrances and there's some recessed lights over those.
I don't have a lighting plan to evaluate how this new area of activity is going to be illuminated. That's
Okay.
what.
Yeah, it's right now it's the existing light fixtures to remain, but
So just another question. What is the length from the edge of the sidewalk to the proposed cut through? How much lawn are you going to have there?
it's 19, well, from the property line to the new cut through is 19 feet 6 inches. And then it appears to be another 2 feet from the property line to the sidewalk. So there's about 21 feet 6 inches of lawn area with this current plan.
Would it make any sense to move the sign to the so that you have a complete lawn area? Move the sign over to the left, the entrance to the driveway there, to enhance the look of the, you know, the frontage.
Yeah, can Janice, can you go to slide number 2? So Carmel, we're talking about in front of that existing tree, correct? In that area?
Yeah, where the cars are parked. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, over here.
On the left-hand side.
On the left
Yeah,
side.
right. Yeah. I mean, I think the sign is too big where it is, but perhaps if it was over there, you know, it wouldn't be as, you know, as objectionable in my view. And you'd have the lawn area with the cut through that would be hidden, so to speak, by a nice landscape plan.
Correct.
Or, well, Carmel, what about the area where the sign is right now? What about landscaping that more like it is on the other side of the, I guess, north driveway? You know, where I don't know whether you have a picture in your repertoire, Mr. excuse me, Mr. Sionis, but there's a planting bed that's, I guess it's part of the funeral homes property that's right on the corner of the driveway that has low plantings in the front along with the ground cover. And I know you don't want to block the sign, but there's plenty of room there for low ground cover plants, and also to camouflage the driveway, you know, low shrubbery. So that you, from the street, you just see green and you don't see what's behind the green, and helps give you the illusion that there's more there.
Mm-hmm.
How about if you just lose the sign completely? That's a big, I mean, you can, if you're looking for 70, you know where it is. It's 70. And how many people are going to read all, you know, all those names? You know, you really need to know and read. I mean, I never do that. I'm going to 70, I go to 70. And then you take that big eyesore sign out of the front, and then maybe with some landscaping behind, it blends in. I still think it's inconsistent with the street, putting a driveway in front of the building, but maybe, I don't know. And if you can definitely find the building if you know the number.
Opinions on that?
You know, I mean, knowing my tenants, everyone wants more signage. This is a building that was not vacant when we bought it. We inherited a lot of tenants that had some, they had an existing directory sign on the old sign. And so we just kept that consistent. I do think some people are looking for the actual doctor they're looking for. There's a lot of professional offices right on
But you
this
guys put up a sign with no permit. I mean, no disrespect, but you put a sign up, you don't know you need a sign permit?
Yeah, we replaced the sign that was there.
I thought it was smaller, you know, the original one.
It was smaller. It's a,
Yep.
you know, they're both non-conforming signs. This one is a larger non-conforming sign.
But the proper procedure would be to go get a permit, a sign permit, right?
Understood. The sign that we, you know, installed is, well, not consistent with the sign ordinance is largely consistent with, a lot of the signs in that neighborhood. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a conforming sign in any of the professional buildings there.
Well, the point is that you guys should know you need a sign permit, and you just put one up.
Yeah.
Understood. And that's why we're here, is to try to, correct that wrong and get the proper variance for a sign of that size.
Okay, Kevin, first of all, there's been no testimony given that the majority of the signs in this district are non-conforming. They are certainly much smaller.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Stands out as being too big.
What is, if you look on the screen, I'm circling this thing in the back. What is this?
That's the directory.
Is that the directory sign?
That's directory with like suite numbers on it.
Okay, because that just came to my attention. I believe it's larger than that's also a zoning variance, because I was not aware of that directory sign until I saw this picture. But you have a directory sign on the building that exceeds our requirement, and you have essentially a freestanding sign that is also a directory sign. So there's an excessive amount of signage on this building at this property.
We can, if you'd like us to present testimony about the kind of neighborhood character of the rest of the signs in here, I think we have a good evidence that there is a lot of signs that are non-conforming, and it is the standard here. I think the 12 square feet is, I think it's very difficult to have any sort of sign and convey any information on it without being non-conforming. But
I'm looking at my original photo of this property without that directory sign that's on the building, and it wasn't there. You put that directory sign on, didn't you? This one right here.
Yeah, that's our sign. I don't know if there was a sign, if there was a directory there before, but that is
there
our
was
sign.
not. I'm looking at my photo in the file here. That was not there. So you've got another variance with that sign.
You know what the size limit is for a directory sign?
I don't have it in front of me
I'll let
right
Janice
now.
answer that. Let's say what I was struck by was in the presentation here tonight, when there was the picture of the monument sign, the only words that I could read were 70 Park Street, leasing, and the phone number for the leasing. I couldn't even read any of the tenant names. So it doesn't seem to me like that's actually helpful in identifying what tenants are in the building. And I guess while I've kind of got the mic for the moment, let me go through a couple of my other questions here. Mr. Sinos, do you know how wide the grass strip is on the southern side of the property where the driveway goes past the building?
How wide the grass strip is to the south of the driveway? Is that the question?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, it is not dimensioned. It appears to be 3 to 4 feet in width.
Might there be an opportunity to widen the driveway in that area to provide a striped walkway and perhaps covered walkway along the building for patients going from the rear of the property to the front entrances?
Yes. If we widen that paved area and have the striped walkway against the building, yes.
No, well, I have a power pole right in the center of that strip, so I can't move the driveway over there, and I can't do a passable sidewalk that would accommodate a wheelchair along there. So right where you have that dimension 15'5" on this slide,
yes,
there's a PSE&G pole right in the center of it. We wanted them to install it as close to the property line as possible, but there's a large retaining wall there, and so it's like kind of right smack dab in the center of that strip.
Kevin, I'm gonna
not on the survey?
Not on the survey.
It was added, I mean, it was installed as of, I don't know, beginning of COVID at some time, so maybe March or April.
Right, and the survey date was April 2018.
2018, right?
Yeah.
As part of our renovations, we brought in a new electrical service to the property.
Looks like you also have a tree there, isn't it?
I think that's on the other property. I mean, we did explore the idea of the sidewalk there. That was one of the first ideas we had. It just ends up being really long, but it would have been possible. But that pole was just, I mean, it's smack dab in the middle.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, we weren't going to shift the driveway. Our idea was actually just to put the sidewalk on that side of the driveway. The shifting the driveway is actually a better idea because then you wouldn't have the pedestrian walkway wouldn't have to cross the driveway again. But again, it just doesn't work.
I want to go back to the maximum permitted size for a business directory sign. Our zoning ordinance only permits 6 square feet.
So we are definitely much larger with ours there.
That's another variance right here.
One other thought I was had was that Mr. Sionis, when you were mentioning that, I think it was an 18-foot driveway is the minimum for two-way travel.
Yes.
Perhaps even the 20. If you reduce the 21-foot wide driveway that's proposed in the front of the building to 18, does that get you right back to 85% impervious surface?
3 times gives us about 132 square feet of 32. Just checking my math.
Sure.
We'd be short by 709. It's 18 plus 7. 18. We're 34 square feet above the 85%, the original 85%.
It's definitely getting closer. I mean, my concern is that it sounds like with the amount of traffic here that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be, using that front area for, parking for some period of time, whether it's take one of those brain spine patients into the building, get them situated into one of the suites, and then come out. I mean, we've heard Amazon, we've heard ambulances. It seems like there's going to be a lot of parking in that area, and I kind of struggle with having, more cars in front of the building. I like the idea that perhaps it could be screened with some landscaping. Perhaps the landscaping that's against the building could be moved out, the driveway closer to the building. That might be a way to mitigate some of that as well. The other thought I had was, what if you made the first 4 of those spots on the left of the screen that we're seeing here, short-term 15-minute drop-off spaces? Perhaps that, would help even in the current configuration. But those are all the questions and comments I had for the moment.
Do you have any handicapped parking on site right now?
Yes, on the if you look at slide 4 again, Janice.
The last 2 spots in the front on the side.
Yeah.
Oh, here.
Under that second tree from the sidewalk. Yeah.
Okay.
I can appreciate Keith's suggestion about making those short-term, but it strikes me if you have 26 suites here, 14 suites, and you only have 26 on-site parking spots, parking must be tight in this lot as it is.
Yeah, I was going to say everything is committed. So, there's only 2 per 1,000 parking, which is lower than you'd really want for medical. It's a lot more than most medical in Montclair, or that a lot of medical in Montclair has. But it's tight, and I have every spot committed in leases. It's almost every spot. I've got a couple of kind of guest spots. It's one of the reasons we like the idea of the loop driveway. Was that it actually should free up some parking. People that are just trying to get somebody in the building and leave right now, they park in the back and then walk them all the way up. Whereas if they could just drop them off, it would maybe alleviate some of that. But I don't think I could eliminate 4 spots and still be in compliance with, you know, what is committed to and leases to current tenants. As far as the driveway, you know, we're kind of, I'm open to the board's ideas. You know, permeable pavers is a decent idea. We've never had good luck with the permeable asphalt. It just doesn't seem to work. It gets sedimented immediately. Permeable pavers we've done at the hotel project, those work okay, but they're almost impossible to stripe. So striping kind of is made to stick to asphalt. It doesn't work that well on pavers. It doesn't look good on pavers. And it kind of takes away the permeability of it. You know, if you have those pavers with the big wide gaps to let water through, the striping doesn't really work. And if we were going to try to do either a yield striping or a no parking striping or loading zone only, all that stuff just becomes a lot more difficult.
I can also add to that, those type of pavers are very difficult to walk on when you have high heels. And
yeah, I've heard that as well.
So and you're talking about, you know, people who might have ambulatory issues, not that they're wearing high heels, but maybe it might be an issue with any kind of heels if you have ambulatory problems.
You know, if the board is really still struggling with the amount of asphalt in the front, I mean, I don't have a problem if we want to narrow that up. I thought 2 lanes is a good idea. I hear what you're saying. If we've got to go down to 1 lane and the board thinks that's the best solution here, but we retain the ability to do the loop driveway, I do think the loop driveway helps the functionality of the building and it helps my tenants a lot. So if the only way we can get our heads around that is to go to 1 lane, we would be open to it.
I mean, I still don't love the idea of having the parking in the front of the building, but perhaps if permeable pavement is an issue, maybe there could be an on-site stormwater detention system installed instead, which has the same functionality really as the permeable pavements to get this stormwater back onto into the ground on the property rather than into the township sewer system. Maybe that's an option that your civil engineer could explore.
Okay.
I think the amount of, especially if we go to 1 lane, the amount of impervious we're adding there is, very little to justify a whole, in-ground detention system. I don't know, but certainly Paul.
A master plan ordinance just tonight, just before this, that moves it to 250 square feet. So you're in ahead of the wire, but that's what the new reg is. It's definitely over 250.
And that's kind of what I was getting at too with the question that I had raised about, since the existing drainage has to be reconfigured. I hadn't thought about the degree of the reconfiguration, but certainly I felt that there was something that could be done, because we're talking an increase of less than 10%. So that perhaps, adding to that existing drain capacity, coverage, extent, whatever, I'll leave it to the experts for that, could help manage the extra runoff so that it's not any worse, at least, than what it is now with the 85%.
Kevin, I don't think that you should really concede on moving this to just 1 lane. There's a lot of advantages to keeping this as a 2-lane cut through. And it's not actually, if you look across the street at the temple there, they have a lot of parking right in front as well. I think if we use our imaginations and think about a really nice landscaping plan, it would cover up. You'd hardly see the drop-off point.
I mean, with our giant sign, you hardly see it at all.
Oh, I think the sign has got to go.
Carmel, just to add to what you're saying, Carmel, I absolutely agree with you about the pavement. And also, if you look up and down the street for the rest of the buildings, there's a lot of pavement, particularly wide driveways going in and out. And while, yes, you're correct that everybody has a front lawn and there's no circular driveways, There's buildings that are situated sideways, where you've got parking where it almost looks like a circular driveway because you've got this giant parking lot next to the building. You've got the other buildings that do have large areas that are paved in front of the building because they're commercial buildings. And you have a lot of signs, you have a lot of freestanding signs up and down the street. None as big as this one, but the ones for the church and the temple, rival in size. They're kind of big. The rest of the signs tend to be a bit smaller, but then they're outside of smaller buildings too that don't have as many tenants. And the very large buildings don't seem to have the freestanding signs. So
I mean, the board can tell me how much they can how much time we should devote to the sign. I have a whole show of all the kind of neighborhood signs. None of them are as big as this. None of them are conforming that I have. I've probably got 30 in the neighborhood that are non-conforming, but they're not this large. So I
How do
get
you
it.
know they're not conforming?
Well, they're not conforming to the sign ordinance. I mean, I guess they could have gotten a sign variance, but we went out and measured them all.
Because I didn't see. Did you document the measurements?
Yeah, I thought you don't have that that PowerPoint.
Yeah, but there's no measurements on them.
I have a sheet if you'd like. I have a cheat sheet, if you will, where I have all the measurements. I don't know. You want to run through that? Want to go through the signs real quick?
If you want to do it, go ahead. I'll fill it up.
Can I say something? I really don't think so. I think, like Tony had a great point. Why do you need a sign with everybody's name on it that you can't read at all? Get rid of it and make the sign that's on the building conforming to our regulation, and that should be enough.
Reading the room, I don't think me going through all the non-conforming signs in the neighborhood is going to change anyone's mind on the board. So I would agree with you. We can concede on the sign and have that removed or put in a conforming sign.
No, get rid of it and put the sign on the building that conforms to our ordinance.
So the oddness on the building ordinance is what'd you say, Janice? 6 square feet?
Okay. There's a building directory sign, which is what you have, is only 6 square feet. Okay. We also permit building identification signs, but you don't have a building identification sign. What you have instead of a building identification sign, you're allowed to have a freestanding sign. And the issue is that your freestanding sign is too big. So if you bring your freestanding sign down in size so it conforms, then I think you address that. The alternative is putting, you'd have to find a place on your building to put an identification sign, but you almost already have that with the great big 70.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. I think I don't need a second identification sign. We could get rid of that. Just to go back to the building directory, I don't see how I'd get 12 tenants on a 6 square foot sign. It seems like that's the variance I should try to push for. I mean,
most medical buildings, most modern medical buildings have directory signs in the lobby. I mean, very rarely, there's no reason to stand outside and figure out what floor your doctor's on. You know the address, you go inside, and typically, the directories are in the lobbies. So it's probably not really that functional. The 70 trumps everything. That you know where you are. There's no mistake. And then you go in, and there should be a sign if you're looking for the suite.
Right.
Inside the building.
Is there a sign inside the does the configuration of the building allow for that?
We don't have an internal directory now.
So let me throw something out to the board. Would you like to see them come back with a revised site plan that shows the landscaping and the lighting, that shows the alternative signage arrangement that addresses the board's concerns?
What alternative signage arrangement are you thinking of, Janet?
Either a conforming freestanding sign and details on their building directory sign so that we know what we're dealing with.
I think in terms of functionality, in terms of usefulness, the sign by the doors is probably more useful than this freestanding sign up front at the sidewalk. Because I do agree with Tony that you're looking for the building number when you're looking for doctors. And then, medical buildings, you assume that there's a directory inside the building that's going to show you where the suite is. And given what you've stated about the configuration, maybe there is usefulness to have the sign on the outside of the building. And perhaps that sign on that far wall isn't as obtrusive from the street into the neighborhood as the sign on the lawn. You're right, a sign, even that sign as it is on the lawn, again, if you're driving by, you got to drive by real slow in order to be able to read it and watch traffic and everything else. And so, I understand why people want signs there, but again, sometimes it's not all that useful to everybody. Because you have to be really good, a really good driver in order to be able to read that sign and drive your car too. So.
Yeah, and I think
in terms of the driveway, I mean, if you have to have the driveway in front of the building, if that's where this thing comes out, if you could have a no net gain and runoff, whatever you do, whether it's through porous pavement or a small detention basin or something. But I like, and I agree with Keith on this, just a zero net increase in runoff from the site. Maybe if you could even improve it a little bit, it would be nice, but I wouldn't put any more water out onto Park Street.
And Paul, did you say that there was places that we could reduce pavement in the back?
Yeah, the back corners.
Paul, did you take those corners into consideration?
Only when we reduced it from the 89% to the 86%. So the 85% includes those paved rear corners.
So if you reclaim those corners,
yes,
then you've got a difference of 2%?
1%.
It was 1%.
1%.
Yeah.
And if you make the driveway narrower,
right. I think Tony's goal is correct, or
almost balance out, right?
Yeah.
And if you landscape it in front, some nice low landscaping so that you're not obstructing vision, but you really can't tell there's a driveway there so much as you see shrubbery.
Yes.
On the street.
I mean, there is a safety factor. It is safer to just cut in front of the building. Aesthetics aside, instead of going through that narrow driveway, it is a positive not to put more cars back there. It is narrow.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, and I think Paul could come up with a landscaping plan that would, kind of accentuate and help the look of the building. I think we could use more landscaping in the front there. And you're gonna can't tell. Paul, do we keep the landscaping that's like in front of that lower level of windows in your proposed?
Right now, we're keeping it.
Okay, but it'd be fine to add more in front of the driveway too. But if we could keep, get rid of the giant sign, no freestanding sign. But if we could keep a 2-car wide, driveway there, I think we could do a good job of kind of shielding that with some nice landscaping that's not too tall where you can't see. You don't know if there's somebody in there, but you know what landscaping we like, Paul.
Right.
Well, I mean, I think the building is rather monolithic the way it looks now, so it needs landscaping. It needs, and I would like to see not just the usual landscaping, some enhanced landscaping that would add to the visual appearance of the building and the site itself, and get rid of the sign and have your 2-lane cut through.
And what about the sign on the building? What about the directory on the building?
I have no problem with that. It's so far back, you can hardly see it.
Right. You also might want to consider naming the building, the Park Street Medical Arts Building. A sign like that might look nice on the building. But I agree, the shrubbery would, I don't want to say camouflage the building, but it would certainly get rid of some of the gray. It would be much more appealing.
Mhm.
Yep.
You had some cherry trees or something?
Yeah.
And as I look at this photo, it looks like there's almost another freestanding sign, and maybe that's an architecture sign or something, but just over the sunroof on the white car. What is that?
That's a for rent sign, it looks like, for lease.
Yeah, there's several of those up and down the street too.
Yeah.
Larger than that.
That I don't believe that one's
One to
gone.
check.
I believe we have no vacancies at the moment.
So can I still ask, I would still like to see a lighting plan
Yes.
to show how this area, which might be fairly active, is illuminated to meet our requirements.
Do you think it's to make that a condition of approval, or would you like us to come back?
Well, are there are the medical offices open in the evening? Are there evening hours?
I believe some of the offices keep limited evening hours. It's predominantly a daytime operation, but there are, obviously they have access to the building at all hours. And I know that there's a counselor in there that has some evening appointments, and I even think the oncologist has a couple of days where they're there later. Not late, but
Right,
some
when it's
6,
dark
7 o'clock,
outside.
yeah, especially this time of year.
I mean, especially from your own liability point of view, you want to have the place well lit, especially if you're having people there who have ambulatory problems.
Oh, and I think it is well lit. I just think we haven't provided we haven't shown what we have there, but we do have some nice lights in the front of that, plus the recessed lights over both entrances are I think it's enough lighting. It hasn't been, represented on the.
And if you landscape it, maybe some landscaping lighting will add that extra bit of definition to the new passageways.
But answering your question, Kevin, I trust that you want the building lit for safety and for convenience. So in my opinion, I don't see why you would have to come back with that, but I leave that up to the board.
Well, perhaps it could come back to the revisions committee for final review.
I would agree. I don't think they need to come back to the full board.
Agreed. Okay.
And the stormwater management plan, that should be part of the revisions committee, or that would be reviewed by the consulting engineer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
When you give the consulting engineer the new plan, could you put some grading on that front entrance and just show how that driveway works? So he's got the data to understand the regulated grades.
I agree. We'll ask the surveyors to include that.
Okay, thanks.
Right.
Yes, thank you.
So, Mr. Sionis, I'm sorry, Mr. Tremulat, you, I know you had more witnesses.
Well, we do have one. I have Kevin.
I believe our witness had to leave at 9:30. I was unaware he had a time conflict, so we.
Well, we've had all this discussion about this application, and I'm not sure how much more testimony is valuable.
Yeah, I don't think Mr. Tamir, had anything to add that we haven't already covered.
Are there, are there any members of the board that have any questions or comments about this application? Questions at this point? And if not, then I want to see if there's any any members of the public that might be in attendance about, what has been submitted on this application.
I have a couple of questions. One of them is back on the northwest corner parking. It looks like it runs over into the neighbor driveway or behind their
property line?
Yeah.
Correct.
Is there an easement there? Can you park there?
There is not an easement there. I have talked to the funeral home next door. He's aware of the condition. He says it's always been like that. But yeah, it's pretty much just the parking stops for the front of those 3 spaces that are over the property line.
My second question is that you said you put in a utility pole on the south side.
We requested a new service, and yeah, then PSE&G installed a new pole.
I thought we were supposed to have underground new installations, but maybe I'm wrong.
So it's underground from the pole to the building.
Right.
But the pole ended up being, only whatever it is there, 15 feet there from the building. But it is underground from the pole to the, under that driveway.
Okay. All right, those are my questions.
Anyone else from the board? Anyone in the public? We'll open it up now. Does the public have any questions concerning this application?
Okay, I don't believe we have any members of the public here. I've unmuted all of the attendees. That's Kevin and Casey. Any other additional comments? I don't believe so.
Okay. Are there any members of the public who want to comment on this application in general, not just questions?
Again, everybody, they're unmuted, and I don't believe there's any comments or questions.
All right. So, Mr. Tremulak, not to take away your opportunity to speak to us, but again, I think based on all the discussion that we've had, that there is a consensus here that some reconfiguration of this plan would go a long way to making this acceptable to the board, and reconfiguring the drive-through, and to also consider the widths to recover as much of the pervious surface as possible from in comparison to the plan as submitted, so that there can be a net zero impact to the property with respect to water runoff, and that additional landscaping is needed to the front yard, that the freestanding sign proposal at the front yard will be eliminated, the sign will be removed, and that the board is willing to grant a variance for the sign on the building, for the directory sign on the building, and that there should be some additional details provided to the board with respect to lighting, with respect to landscaping plan, with respect to the the sloping of the yard in the area where it's expected to be paved, and also to the extent possible with the water drainage reconfiguration, and also indicating where signs will be placed that are not shown, but we've discussed signage in the northern driveway and also in the area of the proposed cut-through. And I think that includes everything we've discussed, reclaiming areas in the back that are paved currently but dead space. Again, and I think that's that covers everything. Board members, have I missed anything?
Great job. That's fantastic.
I'm thinking, then were we going to say that the building should have to be named a medical building? So in addition to the sanity, they would see that.
Again, I think it's up to the applicant.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty clear it's some kind of commercial building.
But it does distinguish it from the funeral parlor and the insurance company.
But I think that's up to the applicant. Certainly the applicant, if they want to submit a sign that's within the ordinance, they would be free to do so.
Yeah, I don't have a strong feeling about, kind of rebranding the building or selling naming rights or anything like that. But, I do want to drill down on the impervious, because I want to be precise about that. I think we can, a goal should be that we minimize impervious coverage in any way possible by eliminating, any existing impervious that's unnecessary for parking. I know there's some areas to do that in that kind of flag corner in the southwest corner of the property. I just am worried that Paul's going to do the math on this and it's not going to be able to get to this net zero. And
all right, well, then let me propose then that I think, in general, our rough math shows that it's going to reduce with the configurations that we're talking about. We should wind up with maybe something within 1% or 2% of the current at worst, which we should be able to compensate by reconfiguring the drainage. So, that whatever can't be compensated, with respect to recovering pervious surface, that it be, dealt with respect to reconfiguring the drainage on the property, so that we hit that net zero mark. How about that? Does that sound doable?
Alan, I'll let you. I mean, you've kind of done the site plan on this. You can do the math and see how close we can get. I think I know the board's goal. I
think you meant Paul.
Or sorry, not Alan,
okay.
Paul. Yeah.
Kevin, I think you're only. Yeah, I think we could get there.
Okay. All right. So with that, I would propose to approve this reconfigured application, subject to these changes being made, memorialized appropriately, supporting documentation, revised plans submitted, and charge the review committee with making sure that it conforms to what the board is approving. And Arthur, are you with me on this? Can you document all of this?
I think we'll be able to craft something, and working with Mr. Trembulac, it'll be possible to coordinate this. I'm a little unclear as to what you would want to go to the revisions committee, and what would go elsewhere, if anything. Is it
well, I think that everything aside from the actual drainage, issues is which I would rather the board engineer look at those things, that the revisions committee deal with the rest of it, because it seems like it's more configuration and details as to how the to the property question is going to be made.
So subject to the reasonable satisfaction of the board engineer.
Yes, and the board of course he'll be looking at what they actually provide, but the idea is that we want to get to a net zero impact with the impervious surface changes that will be made.
Understood.
So that's my motion, folks.
In a second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Vice Chair Brodock,
Yeah, I was just going to ask Mr. Sionis if he's using native landscaping in his design.
Oh, always.
That's what I thought. Yes.
Mayor Spiller,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Schlager,
Yes.
Mr. Rooney, Mr. Rooney, I think you're muted.
Yes.
Steve? Okay. Mr. Ian Wally?
Yes, and it's also a sharp-looking building. I meant to mention that earlier. It's a nice, nice redesign.
Thank you.
Ms. Lockman?
I would say yes, but I really want to see a good landscaping plan.
No ginkgo stuff.
I love ginkgo trees.
Mr. Gilmer?
Yes.
And Chair wins.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Great, thank you very
All right,
much.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Thank
That was
you.
very reasonable. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, we're off to a good start for the new year. So let's see. We do have to deal with the appointment of Conflict Counsel.
Yes. So, as you know, Mr. Dennis Galvin decided he's no longer going to be representing land use boards. So we issued an RFP for a new conflict attorney and received 2 proposals. The Personnel Committee brought in Mr. Bernstein, Eric Bernstein, for an interview, and he's certainly well qualified and knows his stuff and has the necessary support staff to do the job. So they recommended retaining Mr. Bernstein's firm for 2021.
And just to remind everybody that in the event we still need further action with respect to the Lackawanna Plaza application, that Dennis will still remain involved with that.
Yes, he agreed to that.
Can I ask a question about the interview?
Sure.
Was it made clear that to the interviewers that Mr. Bernstein himself will be coming to the meetings, or did he intend to send an associate or a colleague?
His statement was that in most cases that he would expect that he would be attending, but that one of his colleagues might be attending in his stead, depending on the particular circumstances. And that they were qualified to appear, and we did look at their qualifications, and I agree that they were qualified if necessary.
I have a question.
Sure.
I understand Bernstein is the only partner, and he's charging $140 an hour. If one of his associates come, is it the same rate?
They're not really associates. They're of counsel to him. It's one of those arrangements where they're not junior attorneys. These are all experienced attorneys in the firm with a minimum of 10 years experience, if I'm recalling the CV correctly. It's not much longer.
Is he basically a sole proprietor and these people just come in as needed?
No, that's not quite how these kind of firms work. They're kind of like, it's kind of like they're partners, but they don't want to enter a formal partnership. So they all have their clients, they help out with one another, but they don't want to get married. They just want to live together. Is that a good explanation, Art?
So another question. I see Bernstein lives in Warren. I don't know where the other counsel live. Does the $140 per hour start when they leave their door and arrive in Montclair?
Yes.
Transportation, yes.
It includes that's typical.
And the transportation costs a certain amount per hour, but their actually fee where they're billing us when they step in their car and leave Warren and then get to Montclair?
Yes, the other applicant, though, that we had for the position was in South Jersey.
Okay.
So would have been a much longer drive for him. And that was one of the reasons why we chose this firm, because they have a lot of dealings here in northern Jersey, with towns surrounding townships in Essex County. You know, yeah, the Warren is not exactly what I would consider local, but it was closer than the other options.
Right. There were only 2 responses to the RFP. So did Mr. Bernstein also say that he has a relationship with Montclair? Is he one of the tax attorneys?
He's the tax attorney.
Yes. And I think he represents, he deals in the planning with Irvington, I think he said, in East Orange.
Yes. Yes.
So.
I've actually known Eric a long time, and he is in many, many communities in many, many different functions. And so, you know, his experience, and I think most of the people who are with his firm have been with him many, many years as well.
Right.
So I think you could do a lot worse, let's put it that way.
So there's no issue with him having to recuse himself? Because
he only does municipal work. He does not represent private clients.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We asked him that question. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so is there a motion to appoint Eric Bernstein Associates to conflict attorney?
I move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
All right. Any committee reports? I don't think so.
No, to my knowledge.
CFO?
Sure, reviewed the bills.
You were
and I have no
reappointed,
questions.
by the way. You were reappointed, by the way, to that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Is that the unofficial official appointment?
Yes.
I would move to approve the bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have one more question. Janice, is there anything coming down the pike that we should be thinking about of interest?
You mean development applications?
Yeah, anything, you know.
Nothing's been filed. Nothing major's been filed. I just have a lot of small applications.
Okay, thank you.
Which is, because of that, I'll just mention and reiterate too, that's why we're hoping to get to some of these things
Right.
that we haven't been able to get to because of all the development applications that we've had recently. It'll allow us to get to some of these other topics like ordinances and such. So hopefully this year will be productive in a different way than last year.
Okay.
So I believe that's it. I move that we adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye and bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Thank you. Aye.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.